You know, it's a shocking fact, but heat kills more American outdoor workers than tornadoes, hurricanes, and floods combined. And here's the thing, it almost never happens suddenly. It's a gradual creep, happening while the worker just keeps pushing through. Because the early signs? They just feel like being tired. By the time someone actually collapses, they're already deep into a life-threatening emergency. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what's happening inside your body in the heat, and then we'll walk through the new federal rules designed to keep you safe. All right, let's get into it. So, here's what we've got on tap. We'll start with your body's amazing cooling system and what happens when it fails. Then we'll dive into some hidden risks on the job you might not know about. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of OSHA's new heat rule, what it actually requires, and what it all means for your rights and your safety.
I want you to let that sink in for a second. Most of the time, heat illness isn't this dramatic, sudden event. It builds up, over hours. The whole time, a worker might just think they're having an off day, that they're a little sluggish. And that's exactly why understanding how this progresses is so critical.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract risk. That number, 479, that's 479 people, each with a family and a story, who went to work and just didn't come home. This data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics is a really stark reminder of exactly why these new protections are being put in place. It's about preventing this number from getting any higher.
Okay, first up, your body's cooling system. So how does your body actually fight back when the temperature starts to climb? Well, it has this really sophisticated, built-in cooling system that's working around the clock to keep you safe. The official term for this is thermoregulation, but really, you can just think of it like the thermostat in your house. Your brain has this little command center that's constantly checking your core temperature. Its one and only goal is to keep you right around that 98.6 degree mark. And when it senses you're getting too hot, it kicks on the body's air conditioning.
And that air conditioning works in two main ways. The first, and the one we all know, is sweating. It's your body's #1 cooling tool. As that sweat evaporates off your skin, it literally pulls heat away from your body. The second thing it does is called vasodilation. Basically, your brain tells the blood vessels near your skin to get wider, sending more hot blood to the surface so it can radiate that heat out into the air. It's kind of like the radiator in your car.
But here's the catch. This system has its limits. First off, when it's super humid out, your sweat can't evaporate. So right there, your main cooling method is pretty much useless. Then you've got heavy clothing or PPE, which acts like a layer of insulation, trapping all that heat in. And on top of all that, if you're doing really strenuous work, you're basically a furnace on the inside, generating so much heat that your body just can't keep up.
Now this is why safety pros don't just look at the thermometer. They use a measurement called the wet bulb globe temperature, or WBGT. This is the number that really matters, because it's way more realistic about what your body is actually going through. It doesn't just measure temperature, it factors in humidity, which, as we just saw, is a huge deal, plus the direct heat from the sun. That's why working in direct sun at 85 degrees can be way more dangerous than working in the shade when it's 90.
So what happens when your body hits those limits and that internal thermostat starts to fail? Well, it doesn't just shut down all at once. It's a progression, a journey through 4 distinct and increasingly dangerous stages.
The very first alarm bell your body sounds is heat cramps. You've been sweating a ton, losing salt, and suddenly your muscles just seize up in these painful spasms. This is not the time to tough it out. This is your body screaming at you that it's under serious stress and you need to stop, get to a cool place, and get some water in you now.
Okay, next up is heat syncope. This is when you feel dizzy, lightheaded, maybe even faint. Remember how we said your body sends blood to the skin to cool down? Well, that means there's less blood for everything else, including your brain. If you stand up too quickly after you've been working hard in the heat, your blood pressure can just tank and boom, you're out. If you see this happen, get the person into the shade and have them lie down with their legs up.
Stage 3 is heat exhaustion, and this is probably the most common serious heat illness. At this point, the body is in a full-blown struggle. The person is sweating like crazy, they feel weak, nauseous, and their skin might actually feel cool and clammy. Now, here is the absolutely crucial part. They're usually still conscious, they can still talk to you, and that creates this false sense of security. But make no mistake, they are right on the edge of a major medical emergency.
And this is that emergency, heat stroke. Here, the body's cooling system has completely shut down. The core temperature skyrockets past 104 degrees and the brain is, well, it's literally cooking. That's what causes the confusion, the slurred speech, the seizures, the loss of consciousness.
This is a 911 call 100% of the time, no hesitation. And while you wait for the ambulance, your only job is to cool that person down with anything you have.
I really want to hammer this point home. Don't be fooled because someone with heat exhaustion can still talk to you. That slide from being okay to a life-threatening heat stroke can happen terrifyingly fast. There is no wait-and-see moment here. You have to act immediately.
Okay, so we've covered the science of what's happening inside your body. Now let's talk about some of the specific risks on the job site that can make you more vulnerable, and some of these might surprise you.
So the single biggest risk factor, by far, is a lack of what's called acclimatization. See, your body is an amazing machine, but it needs time to adapt to working in the heat, usually about a week or two. And get this, most heat-related deaths happen in the first few days of a new job, or during the first real heat wave of the summer. That's why a slow, gradual ramp-up isn't just a nice idea, it is a lifesaver, period.
And there are all these other little things you might not even think about. Did you know that common medications, like some blood pressure pills or even just over-the-counter allergy meds, can mess with your body's ability to cool itself? Or that having a couple beers the night before can leave you dehydrated and set you up for failure the next day? Even simple stuff like wearing dark clothes that soak up the sun or skipping a real break in the shade can massively increase your risk.
You know, understanding all these risks is the first step. The next step is understanding the rules that are designed to actually control those risks. We're about to dive into the new OSHA rules, so if you're finding this kind of breakdown useful, now's a great time to hit subscribe to HSEstudy so you can stay on top of all this critical safety info.
All right, let's talk about OSHA's new heat rule. For years, OSHA kind of used a general catch-all rule to cite employers for heat hazards. But now they've proposed a specific, dedicated heat standard. And that's a huge shift. It moves heat safety from just being general guidance to a set of very specific and, more importantly, enforceable requirements.
The new rule is basically built around two key temperature triggers, and it's based on the heat index, not just the temperature. The first one is the initial heat trigger, which is at 80 degrees. Once the heat index hits 80, a whole set of baseline protections has to be in place. Then, when it gets up to 90 degrees, you hit the high heat trigger, and a second, much stricter set of rules kicks in.
So what do those rules actually require? Let's break down exactly what employers are going to have to do to stay compliant with this new standard.
This table gives you a great snapshot. So at 80 degrees, the baseline kicks in. You've got to have cool water, access to shade, and a formal acclimatization plan. But look what happens when we jump over to the 90-degree column. Things get way more serious. Breaks aren't just suggested, they become mandatory, a paid 15-minute break every 2 hours. And monitoring goes from just having a radio to needing a full-on buddy system or direct supervision. It's a whole different level of caution.
And the rule gets super specific on acclimatization because the data is crystal clear. That's when workers are most vulnerable. So for anybody who's been away for a week or more, you can't just throw them back into a full shift. The rule actually mandates this ramp up. No more than half a shift in the heat on day 1, then 60% on day 2, 80% on day 3. This isn't a suggestion. It's a required, data-driven schedule designed to save lives.
All right, so we've talked a lot about what your employer has to do, but let's flip that around. This is about your rights. And understanding these protections is the first step in making sure you and your crew go home safe at the end of the day.
Here's what it all comes down to. You have the right to these protections. You have the right to cool water and paid rest breaks. You have the right to a safe, slow acclimatization period, not to be rushed. You have the right to be monitored when it's dangerously hot. You have the right to be trained on all this stuff. And, maybe most importantly, you have the absolute right to speak up and report symptoms, whether they're yours or a coworker's, without any fear of getting in trouble for it.
We've covered a ton of ground here, from the biology inside your own body to the legal requirements of this new OSHA rule. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. Looking at your job site, your crew, your daily routine, what is one practical change you can make starting tomorrow to put this knowledge into action and make things safer for everybody?
Look, the conversation around heat safety is always changing. To stay informed and get more explainers on critical rules like this one, make sure you subscribe to HSEstudy. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there.